Roger, Houston. We have all systems go. T-minus 7, 6, 5. Main engine start. 3, 2, 1. Ignition.
What happens when millions of pounds of rocket fuel ignite right underneath you? How does it feel to be pressed into your seat by the massive acceleration into orbit? What is it like to have one chance to land a $2 billion spacecraft with 7 lives at stake? This man knows. Rick Searfoss, Air Force test pilot, recipient of the Distinguished Flying Cross, astronaut.
Let's give a big safe welcome to Colonel Rick Searfoss.
Thank you, Matt. It is wonderful to be here tonight. You know, if I could bottle up the energy that's in this room right now, I could invent a new kind of rocket fuel. We'd be on Mars in no time flat. This is fantastic. Now, let's hear it. Let's hear it for yourself. Great job. You know, I'm here to convince you that what you have done is not only on par with the NCAA championships or great sporting athletic endeavors, but it's very similar to what we go through in preparing to send humans into space. Very difficult, complex, and challenging endeavor. Who is to say what is impossible? For the dreams of yesterday are the hopes of today and the realities of tomorrow. Pretty visionary words, words that you might hear from a dreamer. But they weren't just words from a dreamer, they were also words from a doer. This man right here, Dr. Robert L. Goddard. Now, he was the father of the liquid-fueled rocket engine. One of his devices is standing right next to him there. A far cry from what just 40 years later would power us to the moon. The great-grandchildren of this liquid-fueled rocket engine here were the F-1 engines, each of which produced 1.5 million pounds of thrust. 5 of them clustered together on the first stage of the Saturn rockets sent human beings to the moon. Just 40 years after this happened. Because of, in large part, because of his vision in developing the technology and following his dream and making it realities. Difficult things to do. In fact, when President Kennedy in 1961 set the stage for this incredible race to the moon, in the same speech where he set that objective before the end of the decade, putting Americans on the surface of the moon, he also said, "We choose to do these things not because they are easy, but because they are hard." Now, I would submit to you that all of you are choosers of the hard. You wouldn't be here. You wouldn't have taken on this competition. You wouldn't be members of SIFE. You wouldn't be going the extra mile if you weren't that kind of person. And I believe very much you're the kind of people that are in the astronaut corps, that are trying to push back frontiers and do new things and provide service in very difficult and challenging endeavors.
Rick Searfoss, launching teams, exploring leadership. As shuttle commander for the STS-90 Neurolab mission in 1998, Rick Searfoss built a team so intricately synchronized that hundreds of neurological experiments were completed, far beyond the ambitious goals of this, the most complex space research mission ever.
I need to lay a framework out for you. It's a framework I use when I'm involved in team and leadership kinds of activities to kind of keep myself balanced. You notice there's a lot of P's in that. That's another thing pilots like, things that they can remember easily in the heat of battle. These are the 4 P's for team success. First of all, you have to have a passion for your purpose or your mission or what it is you're all about. I know you've got that. I've seen it over and over and over again just tonight in the last few hours. Beyond that, though, you have to take it beyond the vision and the imaginations and so forth. You have to take it into a plan and execute it. You have to have a program. And I'm sure with your preparations for the competition, you've done quite well with that also. Finally, to really make it happen, you have to have people. You have to be in tune to people's needs. All of the people on your team contribute tremendously to your effort. And if all of those elements aren't balanced and aren't kept in perspective, you're not going to be nearly as successful as those teams and those people who understand the proper balance of those things. 98% effort is not good enough. This is an external fuel tank. It weighs about 65,000 pounds. It's empty, filled up with about 400,000 or 500,000 pounds of liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen to fuel the space shuttle. You know, when we go to orbit, it almost makes it there with us. It gets to 98% of the speed. Out of 17,500 miles per hour to be in orbit, it's just lacking a couple hundred miles an hour. Now, it's designed as part of the system to do that. We drop it off, it tumbles end over end, eventually hits the atmosphere, and after being punched off the orbiter over the Atlantic, ends up in the Indian Ocean someplace, the parts of it that survive re-entry. But as a metaphor for us, I think it's fantastic. 98% doesn't hack it. It's got to be 100% effort. If you get that extra couple hundred miles per hour, if the external tank did, it would be able to stay in orbit with the orbiter. And I think that's a great model for us. Never rest on your laurels. Never be satisfied with an A, but go for the A+. How about people? You know, they're really what make it happen. This is the crew of the STS-90 mission that I had the great privilege to command. 7 people on the crew, part of one team of many teams, including NASA support personnel, contractors, our customers, the scientists who we were doing the experiments for that made this incredible venture called NeuroLab go. Now, I think of a team as a matrix. I have a background a little bit in structural engineering, and if you think of composite materials like fiberglass or Kevlar type materials that are composites of different materials, they're always made with some very strong type fibers, and those would be represented by individuals, people, that come in with their strengths and their weaknesses and their certain abilities. But then the glue that holds it together, the binder in those composite materials that really makes for the overall strength of it, is like the team spirit, the sense of identity, the group cohesiveness in a group of people. If you work the matrix within a team, whether or not you're the team leader or just a member of the team, you'll find much more success and you'll find the team doing better. Work the matrix. You know, I wish I could take all of you up there to see this site for real. It is the most incredibly beautiful thing I've ever seen. That's the aurora, as viewed from above it, looking down, where it's almost like it's alive. It shimmers, it dances, it glows. A very surreal kind of experience, actually, to see that view. This communicates perhaps 1% of that beauty, but just take your imaginations with me on the most incredibly lively physical phenomena you can imagine with that great beauty and fantastic colors. Why do I put this slide up here? Because I want you to appreciate the beauty that's all around you. You don't have to go to space to enjoy sublimely beautiful things. Just flying in here this morning, there were the puffy clouds, the cumulus clouds were just starting to pop up. And to me, that's beautiful. I love clouds, love flying through clouds, and I enjoyed that. Do we, every single day of our life, no matter how busy we are, do we make it a point to try to observe and enjoy the beauty that's around us? If we don't, I think we're losing a little bit of the perspective that we could have and the wisdom that could be ours.
Rick Searfoss, 9 years in the United States Astronaut Corps, 40 days in orbit, 3 NASA shuttle missions, crew member and mission commander, sharing his experiences and skills with audiences all over the country. His topics range from effective team building to adaptability and hit performance. He has contributed to National Geographic magazine, the Discovery Channel, the BBC, and Dr. Stephen R. Covey's book, The Nature of Leadership.
It's a term or a concept that I call measured boldness. It's really nothing more than being proactive, taking the initiative, constantly looking for opportunities to do something worthwhile and to be the driver in any situation. I applied those principles, tried to teach those principles to my crew, and it was very important for this particular mission. Now, leadership, when you're not in a de facto regulated sort of position of leadership, is sometimes very difficult. And I know it's a challenge that you all face. It was one of the things I specifically talked to Shirley about as I prepared for this presentation. How do you do that kind of thing? I would submit that one of the best ways is with measured boldness, constantly looking for opportunities to set example, even if you may not be in a formal leadership position, to give influence. Now, for this particular mission, which as I mentioned before was 8 years in the making, it wasn't just a NASA project. We had National Institutes of Health involved with it, academic institutions from around the world, many international partners as part of it, NASA support people both from the engineering side and the scientific side, and contractors. So it was a huge, very diverse team, and we had to really exercise this measured boldness to play our part as the focal points as the crew members on it. Now with all of these things, you know, with focus, with constancy of purpose, measured boldness, passion, that's great, but unless you have a mission that matters,